Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Cozy Christmas Podcast. My name is Art, and is it just me or is this room haunted? Welcome back. Today I have a great guest on board. Her name is Carol J. Perry, and she writes a cozy mystery series set in a haunted bed and breakfast, and the second one that takes place at Christmas time is called High Spirits. And I'm really excited to be able to introduce her and her books to you today. So join us as we talk more about cozy mysteries as well as all things Christmas. I know there is a cozy chat ahead. I will also give her the Cozy Christmas quiz. So we'll find out more about her traditions and memories and what makes Christmas special for her. Before we get started, I do want to remind you that we have our 100th episode coming up. The special will be dropped on December 20th. So if you have any questions for our listener question and answer time, please get those to me, whether email at cozychristmaspodcast@gmail.com, or you can direct message me on any of the social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to also hear any of your favorite Christmas memories, traditions, things you're thankful for. If you want to give a special shout out to anyone, let me know. We'll get it on the show. I'm hoping to have a big 100th episode extravaganza with a lot of listener involvement. So I need your help, and let's make this episode really special, because if it wasn't for you all, I don't think I would have made it to 100 episodes. All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump to our interview with Carol J. Perry. I have a special guest on the episode today. Her name is Carol J. Perry, and she's the author of the Haunted Haven Mystery Series. So it combines, well, it's a haunted hotel, and the mystery is afoot. It stars a wonderful dog named Finn, and I think a protagonist too. So I have eyes for the dog. Well, Carol, welcome to the Cozy Christmas Podcast.
Thank you, Art. It's good to meet you and everybody else.
I've recommended your books in a recent video I did on my YouTube channel. And so I'm excited to have you on to talk about, especially your second book, High Spirits, which takes place at Christmas time, and was a great mystery, but a wonderful cozy read as well. Well, so for folks just meeting you for the first time, introduce yourself. What other books have you written, and what this series is about?
Okay. I have written two series, or am in continuing to work on both of them. I write the Witch City Mystery Series, which takes place in my hometown of Salem, Massachusetts, where I was born on Halloween Eve. The publicity department enjoyed that about that series. And the second series takes place in Florida, where I live now. And although Salem is a real place, and I use a number of real places in that series, my Haunted Haven series, I have Haven is an invented town that's made up of bits and pieces of some of the Florida towns that the theme parks have missed and the big highways have missed. And there are still quite a few very charming old Florida places that still have some of the architecture and the feel. And my Haunted Haven series, of course, I have the added attraction of a number of ghosts, a significant number of ghosts. Mm-hmm. My protagonist in that series is Maureen Doherty, who once was a ready-to-wear buyer in a major Boston department store. And as has happened with many of the brick and mortar stores, they close up, and Maureen was out of a job. And Finn, the golden retriever, Finn had been trained to be a guide dog, but he was too friendly and too curious, and he flunked his final exam. So the two of them are out of work, and Maureen receives a very strange letter from an attorney in Florida informing her that she is the sole heir of a 100-year-old inn, which is still in operation. Well, since Massachusetts is kind of an expensive place to live when you're out of work, she didn't have much choice. The person who would left this property tour was named Penelope Josephine Gray. She checked with her parents. Nobody knew who that was. But she decided to hop into the old Subaru and head for Florida. So she and Finn go to Florida. And was the beginning of the Haunted Haven series. And Maureen arrives there and finds there is already a staff more or less in place who are some senior citizens who have been working there for room and board before the former manager left. And Maureen kindly decides to keep them on. And she finds that the place is almost out of money and she's going to have to try to keep it into good enough repair to run it. So when the second book begins, that's High Spirits, because this was determined from the start along with the publisher that it would be a Christmas story. Mm-hmm. So in one of Maureen's schemes to make enough money to keep the place going, she cooperates with a local movie theater, which is also an old-time theater, and they're going to have a promotion called the 12 Days of Christmas, and they will run 12 old movies. I like to do research for my books, and it was such fun to research the old movies. Yeah. And you probably do this too, Art, and I'm sure some of your listeners do. Once you start research, you find yourself going down a rabbit hole of all kinds of other shiny objects that occur along the way. So, and I am a pantser. That is the writer who writes by the seat of her pants. I don't have an outline. And this constant research leads to other things which sometimes develop. I usually don't even know who I'm going to kill, but I know I have to kill somebody in these books. And then you start looking up things like poison, and that gets interesting too. It's one of the albums that hasn't put me on a no-fly list for the horrible things that I search. Yeah. But anyway, Maureen and most of the other residents of Haven have come to realize that probably the whole town is haunted, and they don't choose to admit it to anybody. They do not want the tourists coming. They do not want the TV stations with the ghost centers to come and disrupt their otherwise peaceful life. So it's kind of a secret that's well known to all of the residents, but they do try to not let others know about it. And Maureen finds that her building, her inn, is particularly haunted, and I've had such fun with the ghosts. And nobody can say, you see, when you write about ghosts, nobody can say you're wrong and you made a mistake, because who's going to argue with the ghost? Can't prove it one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And Maureen's particular resident ghost is a long deceased movie starlet named Lorna Dubois. And Lorna is very beautiful, but unfortunately, she looked too much like Jean Harlow, so she never became a star. She is very interested in clothes. She's quite a gossip, and she knows many of the other ghosts that haunt the town. And one of the guests that's staying at the hotel during this Christmas season is the projectionist for the 12 Days of Christmas movies. And he's an older gent, and he was hired particularly because he knows how to operate the old two-reel movie projectors. Mm-hmm. Now, how can I tell you this without having a spoiler? Somebody has to die, and in addition to somebody who has to die in this book, it turns out that the movie theater, of course, along with many other buildings, is haunted by a person who died there 40 years ago. And he haunts the theater, sitting on an aisle seat toward the front of the theater. And he was murdered. It's a cold case. It was never solved. And in the subsequent happening in the books, we managed to connect the two murders with some current people who have arrived in town at the same time as the the person who was about to be deceased. It's terribly. I don't want to tell you though because I want everyone to read the book.
Right, absolutely, yeah. No spoilers, please.
Now, in the other series, in the Witch City Mystery series, I also did a Christmas story, and this one was called Bells, Spells, and Murders. And as you probably noticed from reading a lot of cozies, there's always an animal, and the animal in all of the Witch City Mysteries is Orion, a very wonderful cat, and he is always on the cover of the book, and Finn is always on the cover of the Haunted Haven series. My cat Finn, my cat Orion says, the bigger the cat on the cover, the better the book. So we look for a cozy with a big cat. It's quite apt to be one of mine. I think Bells, Spells, and Murders is probably the scariest cozy I've ever written because I had a wonderful blizzard and somebody following the heroine across the Salem Common in the snow, and it was nice and scary.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Cozies can't be too scary, and they certainly, although you have to have murder, we don't use chainsaws. We are not bloody about it. And there's a little romance. The romance is more developed, of course, in the Witch City series because I'm working now on book 13. Just turned in book 13. I'm thinking now about book 14, but it took that many books for the hero and heroine to get together. And we have a hint of a possible romance that's going to happen someday, but we take these things slowly. Little hint of romance, a little hint of comedy here and there. Murder not too bloody, very delicate language, maybe a hell or a damn here and there if necessary, but I try not to offend my readers.
Yeah. What I loved about your books, the two in the series, what I like that what they call the slow burn between the hero and heroine. You know, they're falling in love, but it's not going to happen right away. I've read several recently where it's like they get together in the first book and then, which is fine, but I like it kind of drug out longer. I don't know.
In the Witch City Mysteries, we took it very slowly. She did meet him in the first book. A cute meet, you have to have that. And
sure.
But by book 6, my readers were saying, "Now, come on, this is a really handsome cop and this really delightful lady. Please, Carol, let's be real." So we got a little more chummy about book 6. And Kensington rarely goes beyond 12 books in a series. So when I did book 12, I thought, this may be the end of the series, if things go as they usually do. And I don't want to have my readers dissatisfied, so I let them get married. Then Kensington gave me a contract for 3 more books. So now we're into Mr. and Mrs. North or Heart to Heart territory.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of fun because now they can work together, and they couldn't before because she was in television as a reporter and he was a cop, and he couldn't tell her things that it might be unethical for him to do so. But now they can. And of course, they have the wonderful cat to help them. Now, Maureen hasn't had any problems like this yet. She's just becoming acquainted. She had their first kiss in book 2. It was a significant kiss, but but we will follow that.
I love cozies are some of my favorite mysteries, and for some of the reasons you mentioned, you know, there's usually an animal. Some of them will have a little bit of a haunting, some won't, which is fine. I like the characters. Sometimes you get the quirkiest characters in cozies, and they're always just fun to read. Like in the Haunted Haven series, the ghost that, and I forget her name now, but she's the one in that haunts Maureen's bedroom a lot. The one it was the actress.
Lorna.
Yeah.
And she only appears in black and white the way she did in her movies.
Right. I love her as a character. She's just kind of nutty and fun. Yeah.
Yes, I love her too. I was listening to a radio program, Joy on Paper, that interviews writers, and the host interviewed Mary Higgins Clark once, and Mary Higgins Clark said, the more you love your characters, the easier the writing is going to be. And I do love Lorna. She writes her own lines now. I just take dictation.
Yeah. And I love how you have the ghosts being able to interact sort of with real world objects, that they're like she's able to put on Maureen's dresses and stuff. Like
the essence of the
essence of
clothes.
them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. She borrows clothes any way she wants to, out of Macy's window or out of Maureen's closet. And she just has to somehow magically take the essence of the clothing and make it her size, and it'll fit her. And I had a reader recently email me and say, but can they both wear the same outfit at the same time? And I said, they could, but they haven't yet.
Well, Lorna, she would know that that's bad form to wear someone's outfit at the same time.
No, she would not. She would not do that. She would immediately go and snitch somebody else's clothes.
Right. Yeah. You don't show up at the same party in the same outfit. That's tacky. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, this is a really delightful series, folks. And I've talked about it recently, and we just highly would recommend it to you. A lot of us love to read cozy mysteries this time of year, especially when it's, I don't know about in Florida, but here in Iowa, it gets cold and dark and windy.
It's a beach read.
Yeah, there you are. So what's typical weather for you on Christmas time?
It'll be about like this. It'll be in the 70s most days. We see so many out of state cars, just more than usual, because I guess up north it's pretty much the time you want to go. Also, some of the kids are on vacation.
Oh, sure.
And we're close enough, but far enough away from the theme parks that people sometimes take a side trip and stay here, because we have beautiful beaches, miles and miles of beautiful beaches. Mm-hmm. And we just love it. We just love living here. Years ago, my blood turned to orange juice, I think. We go up to Massachusetts and New Hampshire, usually in August, and figure it'll be a little bit cooler there. It is quite warm here in August, and but I don't mind it. I just love all of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to heat and humidity. So Iowa gets its share of humidity, but I understand Florida kind of gets really damp.
It does.
Yeah.
And just this past week, it has been very humid, unusually warm and very humid. Actually, I had my hair done a couple of days ago because I knew you would see me on your screen, but it's all just come back to the way it was. So never mind.
Oh, that's all right. All right. Well, I want to I've got some Christmas questions here for you, and
sure,
kind of a way to get to know you a little better. And first of all, we'll ask, would you rather have eggnog or hot chocolate?
Hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. Okay. Even in Florida, huh?
Yep. Well, you gave me those two choices. Yeah, no, I would rather have hot chocolate.
Yeah, no,
of course, you can have cold hot chocolate if you want to.
That's true. Yeah, I know a good. They call it frozen hot chocolate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. How about candy canes? Do you like candy canes?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I don't hate them, and I wouldn't refuse one if you offered it to me. I might stir my hot chocolate with it. Mm-hmm. That would be tasty, but not a fan, really.
Okay. Well, that's okay. No one's perfect. Now, do you have a favorite Christmas food, excluding dessert? Because I'll ask about dessert in a minute.
Christmas and Thanksgiving, I really, really like rutabaga, mashed with lots of butter and salt and pepper, and I had it as a side dish for Thanksgiving. And I will have another one in the refrigerator, and I will cook that one Christmas.
Does that kind of come out looking like mashed potatoes almost?
It comes out only it's pale orange. The thing itself looks like a big turnip, but a turnip is kind of bitter, and a rutabaga isn't. And I just like the texture and the taste of it, and my husband likes it also. Grandkids maybe not so much, but who cares?
Yeah.
They can eat the mashed potatoes and the other stuff.
There you go. Yeah, I love stuffing, And I don't know, there's a debate, let's call it stuffing or dressing and which is which, but it's the stovetop stuffing. I mean, that's my
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah, we call it stuffing.
Yeah. Okay, good.
And I have my daddy's recipe that used the bell seasoning and an egg and all that stuff. But
Mm.
lately, I have been using the stuff out of the bag.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
general effect is the same.
I love that stuffing, but I know at least two of my kids don't. So, at Thanksgiving, my wife will make a bunch and I get to eat most of it. So it's great.
Do you actually stuff it into the bird, or do you do it on the side?
We do it on the side.
Yeah, I do too, because my husband cooks the turkey on the Weber grill outside.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and it comes out lovely and brown and crispy, but you can't stuff it. It would be messy. So the stuffing is on the side here too.
Right. I know growing up, my mom used to do that, put it inside.
Yeah, mine
But
did too. I did too when I lived up there. But
yeah, but I guess they're finding out that can really make you sick. So
yeah, it's the temperature. It does not. Nobody ever did get sick from it that I know of. But
me either. Yeah.
I'll take their word for it.
Yeah. It tastes good. As long as I can still have it, that's fine. Now, how about desserts? What do you like to eat for a treat?
Pie,
Pie? Yeah. What kind?
pumpkin pie, particularly, and apple pie would be my second best. And I used to make mince pies. I haven't lately. The kids don't like it, and it's
Mhm.
getting harder to find mincemeat. So I haven't made any mincemeat pies for several years.
I had mincemeat pie for the first time last year. I made some. Well, I should say sort of the first time. Years and years ago, my grandma made some mincemeat pie, and it smelled delicious. And I was a kid, and I thought, oh, I'm going to try this. This is going to be so good. And I took a bite, and I'm like, oh, this is so gross. I'm going to be sick. And so I never touched it again. But I kept hearing so many people talking about how wonderful it was. So
It may be an acquired adult taste.
yeah.
I like it, but not well enough to make it actually anymore. Yeah.
So I kind of cheated and just got some mince pie filling and made kind of like little mince pies, like you
Yeah.
might find in England, and
Yeah.
made some of those, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good. But yeah, not enough to make it from scratch, like my
Oh, and
grandma
I never
did.
made it
No.
from scratch. I always bought it
Yep.
packaged. Now that's something you don't see on the shelves much here. Like maybe it's like the B&M brown bread. You can see it all the time up in Massachusetts, but you have to kind of search for it here. And Sarah Lee doesn't make it at all. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, she makes the best apple pie. So
yeah.
I got mine off online. Like I ordered it through Amazon because I couldn't find any mince pie filling around here. Most of the people I know who make it from scratch. And
I never did.
I'm not going
I
to
don't
try
even
it.
want to think about it.
Yeah. All right. How about a favorite Christmas tradition that you and your family do?
Well, this is something different than what I would have done in Massachusetts. But my husband and I, and we do this anyway. We like to take rides at night, and we ride often along a Gulf Boulevard, which goes through several beach communities. And at this time of year, they're lighted beautifully. So every night we do not have hot chocolate, but we probably have coffee or stop at McDonald's and get a couple of Diet Cokes. And we ride from, say, Treasure Island through Madeira Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, Bel Air, the whole string of beaches all the way to Clearwater and back. And most of the towns have lighted displays on the utility poles.
Mm-hmm.
But here, instead of the usual snowmen and Christmas trees, you're apt to see a big red crab and a dolphin with a Santa hat and a starfish. And they're just beautiful and delightful Florida symbols, in very large. And then at the houses, just in the past week or so, you're starting to see the beautiful house decorations too. And it's much different Florida Christmas than because being raised up there with the snow and snowmen and all that good stuff. This is an entirely different look. But and the lighted palm trees,
Mm-hmm.
It's a little culture shock when you first move here, as Maureen is experiencing her first Christmas with the pink flamingos with the Santa hats
Yeah.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
I
But Jesus had palm trees.
Well, there you go. Yeah, Jesus had
Yeah,
palm trees.
yeah.
Exactly. um, yeah, to me, I've always lived in an area that's been, if not snowy at Christmas time, it's been cold.
Hmm.
I lived in the Pacific Northwest for like 5 or 6 years as well, and it rarely would snow, but it would still be cold. So
Hmm.
to me, Christmas time is cold, and I
Of
hear
course.
about Christmas in like the whole southern hemisphere of the earth is hot,
Yeah.
and I've often wondered, does the warmth, does it still feel Christmassy like it does when it's cold here and all that? And
It's a different feeling. It
yeah,
really, it's not any less wonderful. It's just
sure,
different.
right, yeah. And that's kind of where I came down on it, and like then reading books like yours, and there's been a couple movies that have taken place that I've watched, in Florida, and one was, and I love how they just were able to make it feel so Christmassy, even though everyone's probably sweating.
Yeah. Now we're all air conditioned.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Do you have a favorite memory that has happened around Christmas time?
Well, it all has to do with family,
Hmm.
usually. And I had 4 children, and they blessed me with 9 grandchildren, and now there are 14 great grandchildren.
Oh wow.
So the memories keep building, the faces change, and it's we're blessed that quite a few of the kids moved south. One throwback daughter that really enjoys all that snow and stuff. She's
Hmm.
still up there, and my husband's family, most of them are in New Hampshire, and yeah, the memories. I'm trying to think because all the way back to the childhood memories, I can remember vividly. I couldn't have been about 4 years old when I got my first dollhouse that my dad had built for me,
Mm.
and it was all, and I can just bring that memory up as though it was yesterday. And we used to go to my grandmother's house for Christmas, and all that's when I would see all the cousins and all the aunts and uncles, and the wonderful food, and that's a lovely memory too. So yeah,
Hmm.
too many to enumerate, but all good.
I'm learning that it's those times you spend with family that really just make a precious moment, or a special moment.
Yeah,
And you might not even be doing anything in particular, but well, like you, we love driving around and looking at Christmas lights or walking
yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's simple and fun, and it's a delight to us always.
Right. Right. One question I meant to ask. So this is not necessarily Christmassy related, but how did you first become a writer?
I have always been a writer. Uh, I read 2 books back to back when I was in the 7th grade. One was called Natalie Enters Advertising, and the other was called A Star for Ginny. Phyllis Whitney wrote A Star for Ginny, and I don't remember who wrote Natalie Enters Advertising. But in both books, the girls worked for advertising agencies. So I determined then that's what I was going to do, and I never deterred from that. I plotted it out. I said that's what I was going to be. I was going to work for an advertising. Well, then I took some really bad advice from a guidance counselor, who I think also was the boys' basketball coach or
Mm.
something. But he said, a woman can't get into an advertising agency unless she's a secretary.
Oh.
And with a full boat scholarship, I went to Boston University. And instead of going into the School of Communications where I belonged, I went to the School of Arts and Letters and suffered through typing and shorthand. Typing did come in handy eventually.
Hmm.
After 1 year at Boston University, not a distinguished year at all, I was offered a job as an assistant advertising manager for the Pickering Fuel Company in Salem at a little more money than my daddy was making. Being of sound mind, I quit school
Yeah.
and took that job. And I did that for a while. And I got married and had a couple of kids. And then I became the advertising and sales promotion manager for an old New England department store. as shows up in Maureen's book.
Right.
And I did that for many happy years, and then moved to Florida. First time I moved to Florida, and I went to work for an advertising agency here, which was different. We designed menus and brochures for motels and that sort of thing. But I have always, and along the way, I wrote magazine articles, newspaper articles. I did a lot of travel writing once I moved to Florida because I didn't have to go anywhere. Everybody wanted to be here, and did little side trips and sold those articles. So I've been selling words for money since I was 19. And I never thought of myself as a fiction writer. I did nonfiction, loved it. Then I went to, I was in a writer's group, and we had a speaker who had written some novels for middle grade students. And at the time, I was writing for Southern Travel about the world's largest sandcastle, which was built in Treasure Island, right near here. And I thought, wow, that would be a good place for a teen kind of romance thing to meet on building a sandcastle. And since I had access to everything I wanted, I could walk around on the castle and interview the castle builders. My first attempt at fiction was a middle grade book called Sandcastle Summer, which I wrote for school book fairs. And I did several more kid books. But I was reading, like you do, I was reading cozies for my own amusement and entertainment. And I thought, well, I could probably do that. And I wrote one, submitted it to 7 different agents, and got the polite, lots of luck letter, thank you for, but we wish you luck in placing it elsewhere. So I thought, well, I sold the kid books just direct to publisher. I'll try that. And I had read a number of Kensington books. Some of them were wonderful, and some of them were not so good. So I thought, well, there's room for everybody at this company. And I sent it, and it said you should wait several months for reply. And in 2 weeks, they called me. I know luck is involved. I landed it on the right desk on the right day when they needed a cozy. And I've been with Kensington ever since.
Nice. Well, and again, I'm not being paid by them or anything, but I've really appreciated how they've just reached out and have helped me connect with authors like you to have on the show.
It's a wonderful company. I have been so, and the publicity and the marketing they do is just amazing. They've been so helpful, and I had the same editor for the first 12 books, and I don't know if she's retired or whether she's become an agent, but at any rate, she's not with Kensington anymore. And I have a new agent who was also lovely, and I'm liking her. And Larissa, who's probably the person you've been in contact with, is also my publicity person. And she is just a wealth of knowledge and information and help, and will hold your hand if needed. Yes, Kensington has just been wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like their other writers too. And I don't even get a discount on their books. I mean, I really buy them.
Come on, Kensington. Yeah. Where's that writer's discount? Yeah. Wonderful. Well, a couple last questions here. I really want to encourage people to, especially this time of year, to be kind and helpful to those. So I wanted to ask to give us some ideas on how we can show kindness to others, especially at this time of year.
Well, I like to think that I'm kind, just in general, that I'm a rather nice, kind person. I was thinking this morning when the Salvation Army lady was outside the Publix market, and I thought, and at this time of year, it's more be a $5 bill than a $1 bill. And I was thinking just about that sort of thing, that we do get nicer. And I don't do this myself anymore, but I have a friend who still does. She makes cookies, and she goes to the Veterans Hospital. We have a couple of Veterans Hospitals near here, and brings the cookies and just sits and talks with these guys who just want someone to talk to. And she brings the cookies. And my daughter is an excellent cook, and she also brings them to the fire department. People who have to work on Christmas, firemen, policemen, and I always do say thank you to them anyway when I run into them. But if you can do that, if you have time and you don't have a house full of little great grandkids that you have to stay home and play with,
Yeah.
I would do that if I still had the time and the mobility that I used to have. Yeah, I would definitely bake the cookies and go and see the firemen.
Yeah. In a recent episode, I mentioned our town. We have a retirement home here, just right in town. We have a very, very small town, but there's a retirement home, and I'll sometimes go over for coffee. I know one of the couples that live there, but you walk in and everyone just acts like you are their best friend. You know, they just love the company.
Yeah, they do. Yes, it's exactly the same kind of thing as the Veterans Hospital or any place.
Right.
And I used, before I was married and had kids and responsibilities and all, I used to go and read to some ladies.
Mm-hmm.
They would select the books. I was quite young. I was still in high school when I did that. And I know that I learned to pronounce a number of words by reading to these ladies who would correct me politely.
I like to read classic stories on my podcast along with interviewing. And there's sometimes I'll come across an old Victorian word that I'm like, okay, what is this word? How do you pronounce it? And I think, well, I'm just going to do the best I can, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I guess one final question, although I think we can probably piece this together, but what makes Christmas cozy to you?
I think those rides along the beach is cozy as you're going to get in Florida. You know, that's that. And also, I don't have any of the babies close by me anymore. The ones that were babies a few years ago are now little kindergarten kids. Some of the babies are up in Massachusetts, and cuddling babies at Christmas time or any time is so cozy and they smell so good most of the time.
Yeah.
And I do miss that. Not that I'm going to go around encouraging the kids to have babies. So a couple of the great grandchildren, not the ones that, one that lives fairly nearby and one that lives in South Carolina, are both in their early 20s. So I thought I would stand a good chance to being a great grandmother if they're as prolific as all the rest of them are. So I look forward to cuddling some more babies.
All right. Well, we no longer have babies in our house. My babies are teenagers now. So that's partly why I got a dog. So I'm looking forward to cuddling her this Christmas time. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, Carol, do you have a website or somewhere online people can?
I do. I have a website, and it's www.caroljperry.com. And on the website, there's a link to order my newsletter, which is written for me by my cat, Orion, the cat from that series. And also Orion the cat lets Finn woof once in a while.
I listened to the audiobook.
Oh, did you? I haven't even heard them. I haven't heard
They used really
to
good.
Send me free ones, and they don't anymore. So I haven't even heard those, except the little sample that you can get on Amazon.
Yeah, they're really well done. And I can't think of the lady's name who reads them, but she does a great job.
Yeah, it's the same one. It's the same lady that does she does both series.
Her name is C.S.E. Cooney.
Yes.
Yeah. She does. I'm sure I've heard her in other things too. But I really love the way she makes Finn sound, especially his wolf noise. And
I'm going to have to spring for one and buy it so I can hear her.
Yeah, well, I know one of them I got through our library. They have them. I think it was the first one I got through the library. Yeah. So.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That's good. I know that the audiobooks are selling very well.
Good.
I think maybe during COVID that picked up. I don't know. Everything was selling well, which is nice.
Right.
Considering that the bookshops were closed for a while.
So book form, audiobook, both are really well done. Highly recommend it. So. Carol, well, I missed a great opportunity to mention your first name, Carol, Christmas Carol. This is.
It was purely coincidence.
Okay.
My mother said she was reading a book at the time, and she liked the name Carol Joan. She wanted to pronounce it Carol Joan, and she couldn't remember the name of the book, so never did find out what book I was named from which I was named. But anyway, it's Carol Joan.
All right. Well, maybe if anyone knows, they'll let you know. Well, Carol, what's next for your mystery series? I know your which one? You said you had a couple more coming out. How about?
I'm working now on book 3, and Maureen is still trying to raise money for this place, and it's June, and business is slow. She finds a body, of course. She learns about that a number of years ago in June, Haven sponsored a fishing contest, and it was a large fishing tournament, and it was apparently very successful, and they never did it again. And it had to do with, here's another rabbit hole I went down. It had to do with the Indian mounds that are nearby, and there are Indian mounds near Gulfport, which is sort of the model for a lot of Haven. And that became very interesting. So we investigate a little bit about Indian mounds, and that's a lovely opportunity for some more ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the plan for that one. And one of my regular readers emailed me and said, when is there going to be a book that features River? River North is one of the favorite sidekick characters in the Witch City Mystery. She's a tarot reader, and she is a witch, and she is a close friend of Lee, my protagonist. So book number 14, I know there's going to be somebody is making a movie in Salem about witches, and River either has a part in it or is involved in it in some way. It's not that well thought out yet, but one of the movie people is going to be murdered. And that's all I know about those 2 books. But those are the ones that are immediately in the works. And the working title of the next Haven one is Haunting License. You like it?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Oh, I keep thinking of questions now. One of the things also about your mystery is that there's an ongoing mystery as to why does she inherit this?
Yes.
And I am intrigued by that as to how she came to it. So.
Until I sense that this series is going to end, I'm not going to tell the real answer because I don't know it.
Oh, okay.
But I will continue to put a few hints, like there's hints in book 2 that weren't there in book 1. We have another name to consider, which may or may not lead anywhere. And there's that photograph of Maureen with the fish. I will continue to drop hints about it, and eventually together we'll figure it out.
Oh, well, we're on this journey together then. Sounds
Yep.
Excellent. Well, Carol, I appreciate you giving me the time today, and thank you so much for just sharing your writing with us, and as well as all your favorite Christmas memories and traditions and all the fun that you guys have. So thanks for being on.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. And I'll have to tell Larissa, she was right. It was just going to be a nice, easy, friendly conversation, and I didn't need to do a lot of preparation for it.
All right.
I appreciate it, Art. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, you have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
I want to thank Carol for coming on, as well as thank Kensington for helping to arrange all these interviews with some of their authors. I'm not paid to say this at all, but I really have enjoyed working with them and communicating with them, getting authors lined up, and they've just been a big help to me in that. So thank you to the good folks at Kensington. You guys have really made my year very special, so thank you. That will do it for today. If you'd like to help support the show in a financial way, there are links in the show notes. I have an Etsy store. I have a t-shirt merchandise store, as well as any donations on Ko-fi.com are much appreciated. And with every donation you make, I'll send you a bookmark or a sticker along with a Christmas card. So thank you so much for listening. And until next time, be kind to each other and do good. And remember, let us honor Christmas in our hearts and try to keep it all the year. Have a very Merry Christmas.